Have you ever wondered when your ex finally feels that deep, sinking regret for letting you go? It's not when they first walk away. It's not during their nights out or when they're swiping through dating apps trying to fill the void. It happens when the distractions fade and suddenly your absence feels like a gaping hole they can't fill. It's when they see you smiling, thriving, and moving on without them. When they realize that freedom doesn't feel as exciting as they imagined, and loneliness starts creeping in louder than ever before. It's when they're forced to confront their emotional patterns and realize they haven't grown, while you've become someone they barely recognize in the best way. The regret deepens when they sense you slipping further out of reach, when the emotional door they always thought would stay open begins to close. And the real gut punch? It's when they understand, too late, that what you offered wasn't ordinary, it was rare. It was love they didn't know how to value until it was gone. If you've been waiting for that moment, wondering if it would ever come, trust me, it does. And when it does, it hurts them more than you think. There's a moment after a breakup that feels deceptively quiet. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or tears or some sudden revelation. It happens in the smallest of spaces, often when they're alone, when the distractions have finally run out. And for your ex, it's that exact moment when your absence starts to echo in places they didn't expect. At first, right after the breakup, they probably felt in control. They might have convinced themselves they were making the right decision. They were surrounded by their friends, keeping busy, going out, filling their calendar with plans, just to avoid sitting still for too long. Maybe they even flirted with new people or downloaded a dating app. All those external things that make them feel like they're doing fine, like they're moving on. But none of those things are a substitute for the emotional bond they had with you. They may not realize it immediately, but it creeps up on them, and they just don't have enough space on the side to look at their emotional bond. It starts with small things. They're laughing at a joke with friends, but it doesn't feel the same. They're sitting across from someone new, trying to engage in conversation, but their mind wanders. They check their phone late at night, scrolling aimlessly, hoping for a notification that isn't coming. And it's in those quiet moments, the ones where life slows down, that the real feeling hits them. Because what they're feeling isn't just loneliness, it's the specific absence of you, the conversations that ran deeper than small talk, the safety they felt confiding in you, even on their worst days, the little routines that became second nature, the way you checked in on them, supported them, made them feel understood without them having to explain themselves over and over again. All of that gone. And the scary part for them? At first, they assumed someone else would come along and fill that gap. They thought it was replaceable. They thought you were replaceable. But now, with every attempt to distract themselves, they're realizing how rare that connection actually was. It starts to show up in random ways. They'll hear a song that reminds them of you, or pass by a coffee shop you used to go to together. Maybe one of their friends casually mentions your name, not even knowing what impact it's going to have. And suddenly, it's like being hit with a wave of memories they didn't ask for, moments they thought they had forgotten. But here's what really gets them. It's the realization that you're not there to come back to. That even though they know you were once a phone call away, you're not anymore. Because as much as they want to believe they're the one in control of how and when you reconnect, they start to feel like you're slipping further and further out of reach. And that creates a panic inside them that they weren't prepared for. That's when they start replaying the relationship in their mind, but differently now. Before, they were focused on the reasons they left, the frustrations, the arguments, the differences. But now, they start to remember the good moments, the way you smiled at them when they were stressed, the times you stayed up late talking them through something they didn't even fully understand themselves. The little acts of kindness that went unnoticed back then, but feel glaringly obvious in hindsight. And the hardest part? They start realizing that the void they feel, it's not because they're missing a relationship in general. It's because they're missing you, your energy, your laughter, your empathy, your way of making them feel like they mattered in a way no one else ever did. It hits them when they come home after a long day and there's no one there to greet them. No text from you asking how their day went. No comfort waiting for them on the other end of the phone. It hits them when they're sick and realize no one's there to bring them soup or check in on them the way you used to without even thinking twice. It hits them when something good happens and you're not the first person they want to tell. This is the moment their regret starts to sink in. It's when the emotional safety net they took for granted is no longer there to catch them. It's when they realize they mistook your love for something permanent, something they could always come back to if they changed their mind. But life doesn't work like that. People grow, they heal, they learn to protect their energy, and by the time they fully grasp what they lost, you've already started building a life where you no longer need to be their emotional home. It's funny, isn't it, how people build these little stories in their heads about how life will look after they walk away from you. In their mind, the breakup was supposed to be some sort of clean slate, this fresh start full of freedom, adventure, and possibility. They imagined nights out where they're the center of attention, flirting with whoever they want, waking up with no strings attached, feeling light and unbothered. I wasn't going to be that person, so I needed to stay with the lights on, only to say they told themselves that they'd feel relief, that they'd finally get back to themselves. And in those first few days, maybe even weeks, they might have convinced themselves it was true. They distracted themselves with friends, random conversations, temporary highs. They filled their calendar to avoid the silence. They posted stories and selfies with captions that screamed, "Look at me, I'm living my best life." But that's the thing about distractions. They always have an expiration date. At some point, the excitement dies down. The people they're surrounding themselves with start to feel less interesting, less meaningful. The late night conversations feel shallow. The connections lack the depth, the warmth, the understanding they once had with you. It creeps up on them slowly, like a fog rolling in at dusk. 1 minute, everything feels fine. And the next, they're scrolling through their phone at midnight, staring at your profile, wondering how you've managed to look so happy without them. That's when it hits. That sharp, undeniable sting of regret. Because you're not falling apart like they assumed you would. You're not stuck at home, crying, sending long emotional texts, or begging for another chance. Instead, you're out there smiling, moving forward, building your life. You're laughing in photos with friends, posting about new things you're trying, places you're going, moments you're creating without them. And let me tell you something about that moment. It bruises their ego more than they'll ever admit. Deep down, part of them expected to be missed in a way that would keep you stuck. They assumed you'd still be waiting, emotionally available, ready to answer their call at 2 a.m. when loneliness hit. But you're not, and that scares them. Because what they're really seeing when they watch you thrive is proof that you're stronger than they thought, that you don't need them to be okay. And for someone who used to be the center of your world, that realization is incredibly uncomfortable. It forces them to confront the fact that they may have overestimated their role in your life and underestimated your ability to rebuild without them. What makes it even worse is that your glow up isn't fake. This isn't about trying to make them jealous. You're not posting things just to get a reaction. You're genuinely evolving, growing, laughing more easily, living more fully. And that's the part they didn't anticipate. Because they can scroll past your photos and try to act unaffected, but every time they see you smiling, there's this little voice in the back of their mind whispering, "That used to be me. I used to make them that happy." They replay the memories, those moments when you would light up at the sound of their voice, when you drop everything just to be there for them, when your happiness revolved around their presence, and now it doesn't. They might even catch themselves comparing, looking at the people you're spending time with now, wondering who's making you laugh like that, who's getting the version of you they once took for granted. And whether they admit it or not, they start asking themselves questions they don't want the answers to. Have you moved on? Is someone else making you feel special? Are you waking up thinking about someone new the way you used to wake up thinking about them? Remember, most of the time you are asking yourself, where are you thinking about them? That's the moment it starts to hurt in a way they weren't prepared for. Because regret isn't just about missing a person. It's about missing who you were when you were with them. It's about realizing that no matter how much they distract themselves, they can't recreate the connection they had with you. And the hardest pill for them to swallow is this: you're becoming the version of yourself they always wanted you to be, but now it's happening without them. The confidence, the joy, the energy you're putting into your life, it's all unfolding while they're stuck watching from a distance. So they sit there scrolling, lingering on your photos a little longer than they should, typing out messages and deleting them, telling themselves they're fine, but knowing deep down that they let go of something beautiful and that you're too far along now to look back. They thought being single again would feel like freedom. They imagined late nights with friends, spontaneous plans, flirting with strangers, doing whatever they wanted without having to answer to anyone. In their mind, breaking up with you was going to be this exciting new chapter where they'd rediscover themselves, reclaim their independence, and dive headfirst into a world of possibilities. But reality had other plans. At first, everything feels light for them. They fill their calendar with distractions. They scroll endlessly, meet new people, laugh at jokes that don't really land, and surround themselves with noise just to avoid the silence. They convince themselves they're happy, that this is what they wanted. They tell their friends they're finally free, as if the relationship was holding them back. They lean into this false narrative because admitting otherwise feels too vulnerable too soon. But here's the part they don't expect, the part no one talks about, the part that sneaks up on them when the excitement starts to wear thin. It happens in those small, quiet moments that they didn't prepare for. After the party ends, after they close the dating app, after they come home to an empty apartment and realize that no one's waiting to hear about their day. No one's there to greet them with warmth. No one's sitting beside them on the couch, asking how they really feel. It's in those moments that the loneliness starts to creep in. And it doesn't knock politely. It barges in, unapologetically. They start noticing it at night. That's when it's the loudest. Lying in bed, scrolling mindlessly through their phone, searching for something, someone, anything to fill the void. They'll check your social media profile more times than they'll admit, just to see what you're up to. Are you sad? Are you missing them? Are you moving on? They want to see a sign that you're hurting like they are, even though they won't say it out loud. And the irony is, this loneliness hits harder because they expected to feel relieved. They thought the breakup would bring clarity and peace. But what they feel is a growing sense of confusion. This isn't how they pictured it. They didn't anticipate that the bed would feel bigger and colder without you. They didn't expect that their favorite songs would suddenly remind them of long drives with you, singing at the top of your lungs, windows down, laughing at things only the two of you found funny. They start noticing how empty their phone feels. No more good morning texts. No more silly memes sent in the middle of the day. No more late night conversations that went from laughing about nothing to sharing the deepest parts of yourselves. The emotional intimacy, the connection that once felt so natural with you, it's gone. And now every conversation they have with someone new feels forced. It lacks the depth, the comfort, the history. They might go on dates. They might flirt with other people. They might even have moments where they genuinely enjoy themselves. But then comes the comparison. They'll sit across from someone new, making small talk over coffee, and there will be this sinking feeling that something's missing. That spark, that ease, that feeling of being fully seen and understood. No matter how hard they try to recreate it, they can't. Because it wasn't just about having someone, it was about having you. And here's the part that really twists the knife for them. Feeling better, the realization that they're the one who chose this. They're the one who walked away. Or maybe they pushed you to the point where you had no choice but to walk away. Either way, they're left sitting with the aftermath, the echo of their own decisions bouncing off the walls of their empty apartment. They told themselves they wanted space, but space, it turns out, feels a lot like loneliness when it's not shared with the right person. And so they feel like loneliness when it's not shared with the right person. What they thought would be freedom now feels like isolation. And the worst part? By the time this realization fully sets in, you've started to adapt. You're healing, you're growing, you're rediscovering parts of yourself that had been dimmed while you were busy trying to make the relationship work. You're smiling more, genuinely, laughing more freely, and finding happiness that doesn't depend on them anymore. And that's when it really hits them, when they look over their shoulder, hoping to find you still standing there, only to realize you're not. There comes a point in this journey where something shifts, not in your world, but in theirs. It's the moment they're forced to look at themselves in a way they've spent months, maybe even years, avoiding. You see, most people walk away from a relationship thinking the problem was the dynamic, the timing, or worst of all, thinking the problem was you. It's easier to externalize blame than to sit with the uncomfortable truth that maybe, just maybe, they had their own emotional work they weren't doing. In the beginning, they distract themselves with anything that keeps them from feeling. New people, temporary attention, surface-level connections that never require depth. They think they're moving on, but in reality, they're just running faster from the parts of themselves they don't want to face. And for a while, that works. It works until life catches up with them. And because here's the thing, emotional growth isn't optional. It waits for you. It waits for the quiet moments when the noise stops, when the distractions wear thin, and when that brave face they've been wearing starts to crack. That's when it happens. It might be a random Tuesday night. They're sitting alone, scrolling mindlessly through their phone, pausing longer than they'd like on that photo of you, looking happier than they remember you being. Or maybe it's when a new connection falls flat, when the excitement of someone new wears off. And they're left realizing that no matter how many first dates they go on, none of these people are making them feel the way you did. Not even close. And here's the part they never tell you. It's not just missing you, it's realizing they're still the same version of themselves that sabotaged something good. That's the real pain. That's the ache that hits late at night when they replay conversations where you tried to get through to them. The times you tried to get them to open up. The moments you tried to show them what real emotional connection looks like. And they pushed it away because they weren't ready. There's a difference between losing someone and realizing why you lost them. The first feels like sadness, the second feels like shame. And that shame creeps in slowly. It starts with memories. Then it turns into questions. Why couldn't I meet her halfway? Why did I pull away every time she needed me? Why did I shut down every time she showed me love? That's when they start connecting the dots. They see the patterns repeating. They see that the same emotional walls that kept them distant with you are showing up in new situations, with new people, in new conversations. And while before they could blame it on compatibility or timing, now the common denominator is undeniable. It's them. This is where regret deepens. Not just because they miss you, but because they realize that even if they wanted to come back, they'd still have to face the emotional work they avoided while they were with you. And that's heavy. It's a different kind of loss. It's not just about losing you, it's about realizing they lost an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to be better. Because let's be honest, you weren't just offering love, you were offering safety, emotional maturity, patience, a chance for them to become someone stronger, more vulnerable, more connected. You were a mirror showing them what they could become if they leaned in, but they pulled back. And now they sit with that. They carry it with them. Every time they meet someone new, that little voice whispers, "You weren't ready when it mattered most." Every new conversation feels like a reminder of how easily they let something real slip through their fingers. And here you are, moving forward, growing, healing, building something better for yourself, not waiting, not shrinking, not chasing after closure that will never come the way you want it to. You've learned how to give that to yourself. Too late. There's this moment that happens in so many breakups, and honestly, it's the one they never see coming. In the beginning, they might feel in control. They made the decision to walk away. Or maybe they acted like they didn't care when things ended. They assumed you'd still be there in the background, still wanting them, still emotionally accessible, still waiting. They believed that if they ever felt like reaching out again, sending that one text or making that late night call, you'd be there. You'd respond like you always did. You'd light up when you saw their name pop up on your phone. They felt this silent security that no matter what happened, they had access to you. That emotional door was still slightly ajar, even if the relationship was over. But here's where the shift happens, and this is the moment that hits them in the gut. When they finally look over their shoulder, when they send that casual, "Hey, how have you been?" text, or they start watching your Instagram stories after weeks of silence and they feel something different. You're not there like you used to be. The tone in your replies feels colder, or maybe you don't reply at all. The person they remember, the one who used to drop everything to answer their calls, the one who used to engage with every breadcrumb of attention they threw your way, is gone. There's this realization that starts creeping in for them. You're slipping further out of reach. And not because you're playing a game, but because you've actually started moving on. They notice that your life doesn't revolve around them anymore. Your energy feels redirected. It's like a thread that was always loosely connecting the two of you has finally snapped. And with that snap comes panic. This is when the regret starts to build in ways they didn't expect, because suddenly it's not just about missing you. It's about losing access to you, losing the version of you who still cared, losing the version of you who still hoped things might change. They'll start doing little things to test where they stand. Maybe they'll like an old photo, send a random text, or try to spark some nostalgia. They'll try to feel out if you're still emotionally available. And when you don't engage like you used to, when your replies are delayed, short, or non-existent, they'll sit with a sinking feeling in their stomach. This isn't a phase. This isn't temporary. This is real distance. And here's what makes this moment especially painful for them. They realized that while they were out there feeling free, keeping their options open, or trying to fill the void with temporary distractions, you were going through your healing phase. You were doing the work. Slowly but surely, you were letting go, not out of spite, not to get a reaction, but because you had to, for your own peace of mind, for your own sanity, for your future happiness. They thought time was on their side, but the irony is, with every day they stayed silent, you were getting stronger. You were getting clearer about what you deserve. And now they're faced with a version of you who doesn't need them anymore. They'll start replaying conversations in their head, wondering where it all shifted. They'll scroll through your photos, looking for signs that maybe you're still hurting, still missing them. But instead, they'll see someone who's glowing in ways you weren't when you were with them. This distance you've created, it's not just physical or digital. It's emotional. It's spiritual. It's that deep, invisible gap that can't be crossed with a single text or a random call. They're realizing that to truly reach you now, it would take real effort, real vulnerability, real change. But even if they wanted to, there's that fear now. The fear that they might be too late, that you've outgrown the chapter where they existed, that someone else might now be seeing the side of you they once took for granted. And that thought, that maybe their chance is gone for good, it lingers with them. It haunts them late at night when their mind is too restless to sleep. It shows up when a song plays that reminds them of you. It surfaces when they pass a place you used to go together. This is the exact moment they start regretting losing you. Not just because they miss you, but because they now feel powerless to get you back. You know, it's funny how we always assume we have time to figure things out, time to fix things, time to circle back to someone when we're finally ready. And when we're in a relationship, we take certain things for granted. We get used to someone's love, their support, the way they show up for us day after day, even when we don't deserve it. We assume they'll always be there, waiting, understanding, and taking in whatever we need to cope with any situation. If you are in a relationship that bears a loss of support, we assume they'll always be there, waiting, understanding, and taking in without being discerning. And to wait for them until they discern it, forgiving. But there comes a moment, and this is the moment that stings the most for your ex, when they finally sit still long enough to realize what they've lost. It's not immediate. It rarely happens right after the breakup. At first, they're distracted. They tell themselves they made the right decision. They romanticize their freedom. They go out, hang with friends, maybe even date someone new, and for a while, that works. It numbs the discomfort. But real regret, the kind that keeps them up at night, doesn't show up during the distractions. It shows up in the quiet moments. It creeps in when they least expect it after a night out, when they come home alone, scrolling mindlessly through their phone, seeing your name in their old messages but not daring to open them. It hits when they lie in bed and realize they haven't had a real, meaningful conversation in weeks, when they're surrounded by people but still feel completely alone. They start thinking about the moments you made them feel safe, the way you could calm them down with just a few words, the way you laughed at their jokes, even when they weren't funny, the little things you did, sending them that song because it reminded you of them, making their coffee just the way they liked it, remembering the small details they didn't think anyone noticed. Those moments come rushing back. And suddenly, they're sitting there wondering why they ever thought they could replace that. And here's the part they never anticipated. They thought love was easy to find again. They assumed they'd meet someone else who made them feel the way you did. But person after person, date after date, conversation after conversation, they realize that no one else hits quite the same. Their chemistry feels forced, the conversations lack depth, the intimacy feels transactional, and while they're going through the motions, there's this nagging voice in their head telling them that they messed up something real. That's when comparison starts creeping in. They start holding every new person up against the memory of you, and no one measures up. Not because you were perfect, but because with you, they felt seen, they felt known. You loved them through their worst moods, their bad days, their insecurities. You believed in them when they didn't believe in themselves. And now, they're stuck comparing shallow flings to something that was meaningful and deep. What hurts even more is that by the time this realization hits, you've already started evolving. You're no longer the same person who once waited for their calls or replayed old conversations, hoping they'd come back. You've been healing, growing, redefining your standards. And whether they can sense it directly or not, there's an energetic shift. They feel it. They feel you slipping further away. And that distance terrifies them. Because what they're really confronting now is the fact that they had something extraordinary and they let it go. Not because it wasn't right, but because they didn't recognize its value at the time. They took your love for granted. They assumed they could lose you and still come back whenever they wanted. But by now, you've become someone stronger, someone with clearer boundaries, someone who has learned how to give their love more carefully. And that's when it truly sinks in for them, that no matter how much they regret it now, some doors don't open again. Some chances don't come back. And that is the moment it hurts them more than they ever thought it would.